Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, their players, and if I think you should draft those individual players in fantasy in your upcoming draft this year. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs this year, guys, so every subscription really helps out. Thank you so much. Without further ado, let's jump into Tampa Bay's projected lines for this year. And on the top line is what Tampa Bay usually has when Kucherov is healthy, right? Palat, Point, and Kucherov. You can't go wrong with that line. Second line, Killorn, Cirelli, and Stamkos. And on the third line, Joseph, Colton, and Perry. On defense, you got Hedman, Ruda, McDonagh, Cernak, Sergachev, and Foot. In nets, you got Vasilevskiy and Brian Elliott. So jumping into our players now, and the guy who's being drafted the earliest from Tampa Bay is Nikita Kucherov. And last year, he missed the whole season from an injury, came back right for the start of the playoffs, and did not miss a beat. The dude looked good. Draft him with confidence because the dude should hit 100 points easily this year. Next is Andrei Vasilevskiy, currently being drafted at 5.1 on average. And this is a really high draft price for a goaltender. Don't get me wrong, Vasilevskiy is the safest goalie you could possibly draft. Like, the dude's going to get a lot of wins, going to get a lot of starts, and he's probably going to produce a bunch of shutouts. Like, he's on a great Tampa Bay team. The thing is, there are some real steals for goalies later in the draft. So do you really want to draft a goalie 5th overall when you could be getting a stud like an Austin Matthews, a Panarin? I'm not so sure. But if that makes you comfortable, or if goalies are ridiculously valuable in your league, you can go ahead and draft Vasilevskiy at number 5. But personally, I'd go with a forward. Next is Brayden Point, and he proved how good of a player he is. Without Kucherov, still managed 48 points in 56 games last year. Now, he was below a point per game, and imagine how much better he can do with Kucherov. Brayden Point is a very safe draft pick where he's currently going in draft. Don't mind it at all. Next is Victor Hedman, and last year had a bit of a down year with 45 points in 54 games. But if that's a down year for him, oh boy, I am very excited to see what he can do. I would expect, if he can stay healthy, at least, at the very minimum, 60 points from Victor Hedman. I like him where he's currently being drafted. Next is Steven Stamkos, and Steven Stamkos is Steven Stamkos. The dude shoots like 3 times a game and is going to get a lot of goals and a lot of points. You cannot go wrong with drafting Steven Stamkos where he's currently going in draft. He's still going to get that top power play time. With Nikita Kucherov this year, he's going to have a very strong season. Next is Ondrej Palat. And finally, we get to someone who I'm not super high on this year. The dude's being drafted around 75th overall, which to me is just too high. He just sneaks into my top 100 forwards, not players. And I don't really see him having as much value as he did last year. Last year, he had an amazing season with 46 points in 55 games, but almost half of his points came on the power play. He was getting that top power play time with Stamkos, with those top guys last year. This year, he's not going to get that top power play in all likelihood, just because Kucherov's back, so he's going to be the guy who's probably going to be kicked off that top power play. I just don't see him having as strong of a season as he did last year. That being said, though, he's still going to play with Nikita Kucherov, so he's not going to have a terrible season. It's just not going to be as good as last year due to the lack of top power play time. Next is Mikhail Sergachev, and he makes for a very safe pick. Might be going a tad early in drafts, but not the worst pick in the world. The dude's going to get a safe 40-point season pretty easily, but his ceiling is not much higher than that, and his floor is not much lower than that. So he makes for a safe pick, but he doesn't have a whole lot of upside due to the fact that he will not be getting top power play time unless Hedman gets injured. Next is Alex Killorn, had 33 points in 56 games last year. He was a fringe roster player pretty much the entire season, but I like him a lot this year because he should get back on that top Tampa Bay power play. And this year, that power play is obviously going to be better with Kucherov back and Stamkos hopefully healthy the whole season. He also shoots the puck a nice amount, which is why I kind of like Killorn this year, and he's going really late in drafts. Next is Anthony Cirelli, and I don't like him a whole lot this year. I know he's playing second line with Stamkos and Killorn, which should be pretty good, right? But he's not an overly offensive-minded player. He'll probably do like he did last year and get about a point every 2 games. And yeah, his plus-minus shouldn't be terrible, but he managed to get a 0 plus-minus last year, which is not great. and he's not even that great with face-off wins, so he's not going to help you there either. I'm avoiding Anthony Cirelli in pretty much every format this year. Next is Erik Cernak, and he's a guy that I'm not super high on in general. His peripherals are okay, nothing special. He doesn't have one particular category that he really excels in. He's kind of okay at all of them, and he might put up a point every 2-3 games, but in general, there are safer options in terms of defensemen, so I'm not drafting Erik Cernak. Next is Ryan McDonagh, and he used to have some value for point scoring, but with Tampa Bay, he's not really utilized on any power play, so he doesn't really have that offensive flair that he used to have, and for that reason, he's not super useful in fantasy. The only use he really has these days is for shots blocked. And his block shots totals are decent. So if you're in a Cats league and you need to catch up in block shots, or if block shots for some reason are incredibly valuable in your league, you could consider McDonagh, but honestly, there are better options, and it's probably not worth drafting Ryan McDonagh. And last but not least, guys, is Brian Elliott. And Brian Elliott's actually being drafted in 5% of leagues. He had a rough couple of seasons these last couple years, but he's a pretty good goalie in general. Do I think he's worth owning? No, I don't. Unless you're in like a 26 to 30 team league where like literally every goalie is owned, there's no reason to own Brian Elliott. Like the dude's barely going to get any starts because they're not going to start suddenly giving Vasilevskiy less starts. Vasilevskiy starts every single game in Tampa Bay besides back-to-back games. Those are the games that Elliott's going to get, and that's it. Elliott's worth a stream when Tampa Bay has back-to-back games. But other than that, there's no reason to have Brian Elliott on your team. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope you guys enjoyed the content, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tip.